one concept which we've been talking about since the beginning of Exodus, every single one of these portions is part of Exodus. It's not just that it's a book of Exodus, which we begin with slavery, and then there's, the going out of Egypt, and then, you have some subsequent portions which are part of that book. Every one of these portions are part of Exodus. And as the Alter Rebbe explains, that Exodus is not just a thing of the past, but it's the most important part of Torah. Exodus. And having a personal exodus associated with that. So every one of these portions is going deeper and deeper into Exodus, beginning with a mindset, overcoming the challenges in Egypt, actually leaving Egypt, leaving those who pursue us, receiving the Torah, which is the most important part of Exodus, which is receiving a playbook, literally a playbook of how to lead a life. And then building a tabernacle. Building a tabernacle is building a home. And having a home where we are truly free, personally and collectively, that this world should be a divine home, which is really an exodus, going out of the trappings and the things that hold us back from being who we're meant to be. So after the instructions now of building a home for God, and creating a home in our own home, where God is a part of that home, which is part of being free. And being free, we're defining being free as being the best we could be, and fulfilling what we're meant to be. So how does this portion add to anything? It seems that this portion itself, the majority of the portion is about the sin of the golden calf. And then you have some hodgepodge items which are, frame the entire portion. But it doesn't seem to follow any sequence. It seems that this portion, which is a sin of the golden calf, really should follow right after the story of receiving the Torah. The portions of which are associated with the tabernacle should be connected with the story of the tabernacle. It seems so disjointed. This portion is certainly not in chronological order. That's for sure. It's not in chronological order. Chronologically, it should go after the story of receiving the Torah. And we'll discuss, during the week about the sin of the golden calf, how it happened. How is it possible that after receiving the Torah, having a divine revelation, there could be such a fallback and such a regression to idolatry? I mean, how is that possible? God said don't. Which part of don't didn't you understand? And going back, regression, going back to idolatry of Egypt. How is that possible? The beginning of the portion chronologically takes place after the sin of the golden calf, where God wants to count the Jewish people, a census. After the tragedy of the golden calf, and there were Jews that died also after that, God shows his love by wanting to count the Jewish people. and the manner in which how we're to take a census. We don't count Jews directly. We don't count Jews directly. It's interesting. That's an interesting law. When you're making a head count, or for that matter, you're counting a minyan. We don't start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't start counting people. And that's something which even predates the Holocaust. In other words, people are not given numbers. We don't reduce people to a number. We don't count people. How do you count people? By what they give. Each one should give a half shekel. And with that, this should be a part of, they will take part of all the offerings in the temple. Each one give a half shekel. And when you count the half shekels, that's how you have a census. Exactly, the half shekel. There's so much we can learn about this. And he says this should be an atonement. By giving a half shekel, it should be an atonement for this, for the transgression, for the sin of the golden calf. So first of all, what is the significance of giving the half shekel? And why a half shekel? If you're having a fundraiser, have a shekel. What's the half shekel? Why give a half when you can give a whole? Why is the entry point half? And it's not an entry point. It's not even an entry point. It doesn't say, okay, entry point is half, and then you can give whatever you want. Everyone had to give a half a shekel. No one can give more than a half a shekel. No one can give more. Half a shekel. And the portion's name is Ki Tisa, which it means when you will count, but the literal meaning of Ki Tisa is when you will lift up the head. So literally it's a head count. Heads up. Heads up. But it's not a heads up. Let me count your heads. Heads up. Give the half shekel and I'll count the half shekel. So here is the idea. Number one, the focal point of this portion is the sin of the golden calf. Very tragic. Very, very tragic. The sin of the golden calf becomes the prototype of sin. It becomes the symbol of how we plunged into sin, worshiping money, worshiping gold, but worshiping something other than God. This is devastating. And where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? You have a nation that has been enslaved for centuries. The trauma of slavery. Finally, we're free. Free at last. We're free. Finally now, not only are we free, we experience a divine revelation that no other people on earth ever experienced. A divine revelation, a personal connection with God. And after that we plunge into the greatest depth. We plunge into the sin of the golden calf. How depressing. Not sad. How depressing and how debilitating After this, is there any hope for the Jewish people after this? Even God says to Moses, even God, and this compounds how depressing it is. All right? This is going to be a downer. Okay?
Sure seems like it.
Even God says to Moses, I've had enough. I've had enough with these people. I'm going to start a new people from you, Moses. Could you imagine that? How depressing could it be that even God says, enough of these people?
Stiff-necked people. What's stiff-necked?
Stubborn. That's me, a stiff-necked people. That you don't want to turn here, that you're stubborn. And here's the idea. Very, very powerful idea. So, we've been speaking about a while the concept of freedom. Freedom is one of the most important ideas of freedom. Beginning from the very beginning of Exodus, is not having circumstances define you. Not allowing feelings to define you. Not allowing one of these dark days that a person can encounter. Not having that define you. And here we encounter the biggest downer. A downer not only from external circumstances, a downer from failure, inner failure. Could we stoop any lower than this? And if we've reached such rock bottom, then what redeeming value is there? What kind of redeeming value can there be? What? Comes along the Parsha, and it's not in chronological order. It is framed. It's framed with many concepts from the beginning and the end. It's framed. The beginning of the Parsha is about counting the Jewish people. First of all, what do you count? What do you count? What do people count often? What do we count most? What are the things that we count most?
We count their money.
We count our money. We count our... You what?
I would have said birthdays.
Okay, birthday is good.
Sure.
Birthday is good. But we count money more than... Unfortunately, we count our money more than our birthdays.
Hopefully you have more money than you have birthdays.
Well, we count our money. Even if we lose count of our money, we still count our money. And if we don't lose count of our money, we for sure count our money to make sure we have enough money.
Sure.
In any case, we count the common denominator between counting our years and counting our money is we count what we value. We count what we value. If we don't value it, we don't count it. And yes, today we count eggs because it has a lot of value too.
Every 10 years, we have a census. We count our census in this country.
That's also, yes. And that has other ramifications, which is important. In any case, we count what we value. And here God tells the Jewish people, I value you. I value you. We'll get into the point of what God says to Moses, that I've had enough. But God says to the Jewish people, I love you, I value you. I want to count you. And how do I count you? I'm giving you the tools of how to count. The word, by the way, for counting is Ki Tisa. Not Ki Tifkod. Literally, Ki Tifkod is to count. Ki Tisa means to uplift. Now that you've fallen, the blessing of falling is getting up. And this is the next lesson of freedom. The lesson of freedom is not that you will never fall. The blessing of freedom is picking yourself up after you've fallen and not allowing the failure to define you, not allowing the feelings of failure, the feelings of worthlessness that comes with failure. All of those feelings, all of those thoughts, the Torah portion begins. This portion is about uplifting. Even though there's going to be a major downer. Imagine, this is the title of the portion. God is telling the Jewish people, yes, there's going to be a part of this portion which is a big downer. But let me frame it. The purpose of this portion is not to drag you down. The purpose of this portion is that even when there is failure, how to pick yourself up. And that is an incredible lesson of freedom, personal freedom, collective freedom. And what is the tool? Being an equal contributor. You matter. You have what to contribute to society. You have what to give society. It's counterintuitive because when a person feels so depressed, you think that the solution here is having a pity party. There is no pity party. The way to get out of that feeling of worthlessness is you matter, and now you contribute. Be a contributor to society. In other words, reveal your inner worthiness. A pity party is a vicious cycle. The vicious cycle of going deeper and deeper into worthlessness, having more pity. The true pity party is, now get back on track. You are a worthy contributor. And you are a half. Why a half? Because only with another person are you a whole. And that's our strength. Because we can't do it alone. The way we do it is when we unite with others. When we recognize that we are all halves. And the other person is as important as I am. I have to uplift the other. And together we uplift each other. This is an incredible lesson. An amazing, amazing lesson of personal freedom. Freedom when we need it most. Freedom of picking ourselves up. When we're falling, we're going down that rabbit hole, and even when we hit rock bottom. Picking ourselves up. Connecting with others. And overcoming that by recognizing that God says, I love you. I cherish you. I'm counting on you. I'm counting on you to be uplifted and be an equal partner in contributing and making this world a divine home.
Amen. Okay.
Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Start the week. Thank you. A good day, everyone. Hey, you too.